Good evening, everyone. This is the regular meeting, the second meeting in June, because we don't meet in July, of the Hoboken Board of Education, a regular meeting. I now call this meeting to order. Mr. Moffat, would you read the statement of compliance?
Yes, sir. This meeting is being held in conformity to the Open Publics Meeting Act. Proper public notice of the meeting was published in local newspapers on June 25, 2016 and June 26, 2016. If any board member or member of the public in attendance believes that this meeting is in violation of the Open Publics Meeting Act, the Board of Education requests that they make a statement at this time. The board wishes to make those in attendance aware that this meeting is being recorded on video and will be broadcast by the board at a later date on cable television channel 77 and FiOS channel 46. The full meeting recording will also be made available on board docs, which can be accessed through the district homepage. The Hoboken Board of Education is committed to preserving the decorum of the public process and is mindful that we live in an electronic age of computers, cell phones, and other electronic communication devices. Nevertheless, we respectfully request that all meeting participants kindly silence their electronic devices during the course of this meeting, and if use of the device is necessary, we ask that you please leave the meeting room if you need to conduct personal business. Thank you, sir. Please rise for the... I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America
and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
And the roll call, Mr. Moffat.
Mr. Biancamano?
Present.
Ms. Evans?
Here.
Dr. Gold?
Here.
Mr. Madigan?
Here.
Ms. Montgomery?
Here.
Ms. Sobola?
Here.
Ms. Stromwall?
Here.
And Mr. Klupfel.
Here. The first order of business, as always, is our Students of the Month. Dr. Johnson.
Okay, so our first student of the month is Isaac Grant from the Brant Primary School. Isaac, are you here? Okay, we're going to move right along. Our second student of the month is from Calabro Elementary School, Janaya Ramos. Are you here? Okay, we're going to keep going. We have a lot of people who are already on vacation. From Connors Elementary School, we have Arzalia Suma. Are you here? Okay. How about Wallace Elementary School? Jolie, are you here? Come on, there you go. Congratulations. Okay. Okay. Hold on 1 minute. Okay. So we are very proud to announce Jolie Jacobelli as the Student of the Month for Wallace Elementary School. Just to tell you a little bit about Jolie, and according to her teachers at the Wallace School, she is an excellent student. She is an excellent student, and she is a very well-rounded young woman. She is a pleasure to teach, and she is very responsible. She loves to volunteer in class, and she is extremely thoughtful to both adults and her peers as well. She is always pushing herself academically, and she strives to do her very best. She is an eager learner and always asks for clarity when a concept is misunderstood. Jolie is kind, and she's generous to her classmates as well. It goes without saying that Jolie is very well deserving of this recognition. She is held in the highest regard at Wallace Elementary School. Congratulations. All right, goes on. You get a certificate too. All right, that's for you. Congratulations. I don't know if your mom wants to talk about anything. Congratulations. Okay, so our next student of the month is from Hoboken Junior High School, Kaylin Effinger. All right. How are you? Congratulations. Why is everyone standing behind me? Come right here so the board can see you too. Okay. So this month, we are extremely proud to introduce Kaylin Effinger as the Junior High Student of the Month. According to her teachers, they can remember the months from September through December when Kaylin would not really want to read out loud or even answer questions when she was called on in class. She was a little bit shy, and she was trying to find her confidence in the classroom. But her teachers said that since December until the end of the school year, Kaylin has truly done a complete 180. Now volunteers at the end of the school year, volunteered in class every day. She shared her responses to questions with her classmates and with her teachers. She voiced her opinions appropriately and carefully in class as well, and she contributed every single day to class discussions. It's pretty impressive. Kaylin is also very cooperative, and especially when she's working in small groups and pairs in cooperative learning groups, she always provides a lot of feedback to her peers during those times. And most importantly, the teachers at the junior high wanted to make sure that I let the Board of Education know that she worked extremely hard over and over on her revisions of her night writes, which was a writing program. And I'm sure that was a lot of work, but I think you did a pretty good job with that, according to your teachers. They said that Kaylin is also an extremely motivated student, and she inspires everyone around her. So with the great improvement that Kaylin has made, she is a well-deserving student for the Student of the Month. Here, go ahead, you hold it. Okay, congratulations. Okay, so let's see. All right, so we have Janiyah Ramos with us. And Janiyah just arrived, but we're really happy because she's the Student of the Month for Calabro Elementary School. So, according to Calabro Elementary School staff, Janiyah is a deserving student to be selected as the Student of the Month. She is a responsible student who strives to do her very best. Her hard work and eagerness to learn has shown greatly both in and out of the classroom. Janiyah is a cooperative and conscientious student who shows her leadership by helping others in need and also by encouraging them. Her cheery smile and positive attitude brightens her teachers' and classmates' day. Janiyah's favorite subject is Spanish, as she excels in that. Learning the Spanish language will allow her to communicate with others who are not fluent. Janiyah's passion is to become a veterinarian because of her love for animals. Janiyah is a well-rounded student who deserves to be praised for her hard work. This is why Mr. Vespignani is extremely happy to nominate Janiyah as the June District Student of the Month for Calabro Elementary School. Congratulations. I'm glad you were able to come. I think her mom wants to take pictures for you, right? Good job. Congratulations. All right. And then our last Student of the Month for the high school, I don't think she's at Ramapo for, what is it? Okay, so our high school Student of the Month is at Ramapo College. It's Dominique Rotundi, and she's at Ramapo for an event today. So although she's not here to accept our congratulations, she is definitely an amazing student. I think you learned all about her at graduation and also in the senior awards. I think she probably didn't sit down for longer than 10 minutes coming up and down for different scholarships. So Dominique is a pretty outstanding young woman, and Hoboken High School is very proud to have had her for the last 4 years in the school. So thank you.
Well, congratulations to the Students of the Month. Anybody have anything to add? We'll call a quick 30-second recess. We're going to continue with the meeting, but if students want to, well, you don't have homework anymore, but there you go. Okay. All right, we'll resume. The next item on the agenda is the public hearing on lease purchase financing of capital projects. Mr. Moffett, I believe you might want to
Yes, thank you,
say
sir.
something.
Yeah, I'll read a little bit from the notice of public hearing. We went and provided proper notices of this public hearing in the Star Ledger on Monday, June 20, 2016. It reads, the Board of Education of the City of Hoboken and County of Hudson County hereby gives notice of public hearing shall be held on today. We're running a little ahead of schedule, but it is in this auditorium in Demarest, and the main reason it is to be held has to do with the providing of a ground lease for financing, so I'll read from it. It's to consider a lease purchase financing in an amount not to exceed $450,000 to provide funds for renovations, alterations, and improvements at Wallace School, at Brant School, including acquisition and installation of furnishings and equipment, financing other incidental work and costs. As part of the transaction, the board intends to transfer to the lessor an interest in one or more of the schools, and the property will be leased back to the board pursuant to a lease purchase agreement. Total cost of this project is expected not to exceed $450,000. The lease will be paid over 5 years, and taxpayers and other interested persons will have an opportunity to ask questions and voice any concerns that they have. So that's this portion of the hearing. I'll provide a short overview of the financing package, and then the referenced two agenda items that are on today's meeting agenda. What I will say is the Board of Education is considering a lease purchase approach to some facility projects that they have starting this summer and moving into the school year. Hopefully most of the projects will be done and online before the start of September in school. So with that, there's two. There's one for $450,000, which includes a ground lease, and then there's another larger equipment lease that is for $450,000. So there's two leases tonight, again, to be considered. When I mean leases, I'm also talking about it's a conception of going out and authorizing moving forward with lease purchase financing. So really the two agenda items tonight are just to authorize that bid process. We'll be coming back at a future meeting to approve the lease and accept it. But right now it's just a way to move forward, go out to bid, tabulate the responses, and make a recommendation to the board. So we had two leases. One is the equipment lease, one is a ground lease. Equipment lease, the main difference has to do with that ground lease portion. Equipment lease, the titles are given, or the ownership of those pieces of equipment are given also to the lessor, and they do have an interest in that. So that's the main difference in the two bids, I should say the two lease agreements. So what I'll do is I'll go through the actions one by one. We have the two, and I'll just identify the areas that the action will be addressing. So in 10.13, it's the facility portion lease, which is the $450,000 lease. And I'll read from the action. The Board of Education has determined that it is necessary to provide for renovations, alterations, and improvements at district schools consisting of bathroom, floor, wall, and ceiling renovations at Wallace School Gym, a floor replacement and toilet room renovation at Brant School, including acquisition and installation of furnishings and equipment, financing and other incidental work and costs through the lease purchase transaction. That's basically incidentals or issuance cost. Further in the resolution, I'd like to point out that the board selected McManaman, Scotland, and Bauman as special counsel, and the Hunterdon County Ed Service Commission as financial advisor on that lease. As I stated, it'll be at a future meeting. There'll be a recommendation to accept or award the lease purchase agreement, and that recommendation will be based upon the opinion of the financial advisor, and also be based on a competitive process. The board also authorizes the president, superintendent, and/or the business administrator to execute the lease or related documents. It sets the total amount as $450,000 not to be exceeded. There are no excess project costs. The board also authorizes the board president, superintendent, and business administrator to authorize execute the ground lease, and also allows for the business administrator to arrange for title work on one or more of the schools that we have as subject to the lease. Another section addresses the not to exceed 5 years in duration, and will allow for reimbursement of expenditures as it relates to the project. So that, again, encapsulates the approval to move forward with the facility lease agreement, which would be underscored by that ground lease. The next lease purchase authorization, which is called the approval of concept of lease purchase, is for the equipment. That maximum is $1,450,000. I'll also read from that action. The board determined to fund acquisition and installation of the turf, track and field maintenance equipment consisting of a turf sweeper for the Hoboken Junior Senior High School, bleachers for Wallace School Gym, cabinetry, seating and electronically controlled workstations for Wallace School Science Labs, stage lighting system, sound system, and fireproof drapery for Hoboken Junior Senior High School auditorium, lab tables, workstations, and seating at the Hoboken Junior Senior High School, robotics lab, including electronic upgrades and other related work, furnishings and equipment. Financing and incidentals for related costs can also be included in that lease, and that lease duration does not exceed 5 years. This action also identifies Hunterdon County Educational Service Commission as financial advisor, and McManaman, Scotland, and Bauman as special counsel in assisting with these lease purchase documents and identification of equipment. It also authorizes the district to publish and hold and required bids or quotes for the lease purchase application. And the financial advisor will determine the lowest responsive and responsible bidder, and that will underscore the recommendation. Again, the amount is not to be exceeded by $1,450,000. Further on in the action, it also identifies that, and I'll read right from it, the lease shall be for a period not to exceed 5 years, and the interest portion of rent shall be calculated at a rate per annum not to exceed 4%. The action also approves and authorizes the board president, business administrator to negotiate, execute, and deliver the lease agreement, and also identifies that the rental payment will be made through the budget process as an appropriation made and a duly adopted and approved budget of the board. And that basically is the overview for the two actions here tonight to be considered. Again, 10.13 and 1.4. And at this stage, we could open up to questions or concerns from the general public.
Okay. Is there a sign-up sheet?
I could go. Yes, there are two. The first one is Patricia Waiters.
Patricia Waiters, 1233 Park Avenue. I know this is kind of premature, but I just ran it past Peter and Brittany. This is kind of hard because it says Wallace School and Brand School. My first question is, was this offered to all the other public schools, including Connors and the other schools? How was the process picked, to pick only these two schools when the high school and Connors need a lot of renovation done to it? Just recently, my kids attend Wallace, and I could have swore that gym was done over. I mean, it hasn't been 2 or 3 years within the past couple of years. And I also want to know the proposed at the bottom, the last sentence, the method of financing. This is not going to fall on the taxpayers' back, is it? We already was faced with 3 tax increase from the homeowners, and this is crazy here. I just want to learn more about it, because right now you're not explaining enough detail for me. Thank you.
Thank you. There's another speaker?
There's another one. If you'd like, I can respond to her, or we can move on until the end. And I
I'm
can
taking
respond.
notes.
Respond to 3 questions.
Yeah.
Okay, the first question was how we determine these projects. I was involved in a conversation with the Director of Facilities initially. We have been tracking various projects moving forward as it related to our long-range facility plan or needs that we've had expressed by not only the Director of Facilities, but also the principals and superintendent in the past. We had the list, we sat down and added and subtracted to that list with the superintendent, and then had a conversation with the board. And that's how we really arrived in an encapsulated form. It was quite a lengthy process as far as reviewing various projects. Some you get to include in your budget as you go, and some you don't. So some of what you see tonight are things that we couldn't afford in the past. So that's how we determined and selected and really presented a list. Now, as far as offering, these were all items that have come up through the requests of others or needs that we've identified internally, but all areas we were trying to address any type of deficiency or needs to support our academic program. So we did go through a rigorous review in that regard. So it was open to all of the sites here in Hoboken Public Schools. And then lastly, how does it work? How is it funded? The equipment lease is going to be part of our budget moving forward as a principal and lease payment. We'll be using this as within our budget creation process. We are working with our financial advisor at this point, as well as our bond counsel, special counsel, to replace the existing equipment and lighting upgrade here at the district, that as it expires, we'll replace it with the equipment lease. So that's what we're trying to do to minimize the impact on, like you said, on the taxpayer, trying to fit it into our existing budget. And the other portion of the night, which is, I just talked about the equipment lease, which is $1,450,000. The other $450,000 is what they call a facility project, and we were very careful to structure this package so that we could use our capital reserve as we move forward through the budget process to minimize the impact on taxpayers moving forward. So I think I touched all 3 questions. And move on to the next speaker.
Yeah, please.
Mr. Murray?
Hi, Brian Murray, 1100 Maxwell Lane. I'd just like to get some clarification because I really just don't understand this very much. So, is the lease purchase essentially a way to borrow money? Whereas, we're taking out a loan, we're paying back at up to 4%, and then at the end of not to exceed 5 years, then we're going to pay that loan back and then, get a clear title to the property? Is that essentially what this lease purchase is?
The short answer is yes, but if you give me all your questions,
Well,
I can run through it.
I think that was because it really wasn't explained, trying to read through the legalese of the wording of the documents, that essentially this is a way for the district to take a loan because you can't bond without a referendum, correct?
Yeah, a lease purchase agreement works very similar to what a loan would work. You would take a loan out over 5 years and repay it and have a principal and interest payment. So in that sense, it's very similar to that type of instrument.
Okay. So I guess my questions, then my follow, having understood it now, my questions would be, one, is this a standard operating procedure that the district has engaged in the past? And how is this going to impact future budgets, given that there's debt service and at the end of 5 years there's, maybe up to $2 million or thereabouts that needs to be repaid out of some future budget? Because essentially you're just borrowing against the asset, but I'm not seeing any, revenues that are associated with it other than from the taxpayer at some point in the future too. So if you divided it over 5 years, I don't know, $400,000 a year with debt service, $500,000 a year. So is this just going to be in future budgets that way, or at the end of 5 years there's going to be a balloon payment that is going to be like, hey, wow, now all of a sudden you guys are all gone and moved on to other things, and there's a new group here who's got to figure out how to pay for it, and the taxpayers are going to have to figure out what to do with that as well. Is this just kind of a hidden way to go over this year's budget without, in basically circumventing the state laws about how much you can raise the budget? Those are my questions. Thank you.
To answer your question, the standard operating procedures allows for this. So the regulations allow for a lease purchase agreement. We've utilized this in the past as a district. As I mentioned, we have that lighting upgrade that we've used, and we're coming to the end of that term. So it is something very common within public schools that they will issue lease purchase agreements. So in that sense, it is standard, and it is part of the budgeting process, to answer your question, and it is subject to an appropriation. So depending on what lease we're talking about, it would be within your operating budget for the $1,450,000, and then the $450,000 will also be part of the budget as required by regulation, and it'll be identified in the event that the future budget includes a withdrawal from capital reserve. It will clearly identify that as a budget statement, and will be found in the supporting documentation. So that's all part of what the regulations allow a school district to do, and it is part of the debt options in front of any district.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Murray.
Now, if I can, just the 4% that you mentioned, that's just a not to exceed amount. In talking with not only the financial advisor, but the bond counsel, they feel the experience right now is it ranges between 1.5% and 3.5%, and probably closer to somewhere in the middle, about 2 to 2.5%. That's what we expect when we go to market.
Right. And then this will come back again at a future board meeting, probably in August.
Yeah, we're going to shoot for that August 16th meeting to have something ready. We're going to time the bid opening and review of those submitted responses and have something ready for the board at that time.
Thank you. Does the board have any comments or questions? Okay. Then we'll close that public hearing part and move on to the committee and other reports. Superintendent.
Okay. Thank you. I have a few things to report out on as we've closed the school year out. The first category of topics that I would like to report to the board has to do with early childhood education. As you know, I have been reporting out that our preschool, kindergarten, and first grade enrollment numbers are on the rise and seem to be continuing to rise each and every day. So as a result, I just wanted to make sure that the Board of Education is clear regarding preschool. I think a lot of the comments that have somewhat floated around regarding preschool education, we've done our best to put out Q&A that describes some of the situations regarding our preschool limitations, but I'd like to put it out there one more time. My numbers may be off by a few students just because they have grown since the last time we checked, but I just want to make sure that the Board of Education understands that we do offer preschool because we are a former Abbott district, and the preschool program that we offer is considered a universal preschool program. However, we did receive clarification from the Department of Education just recently regarding what that actually means. So just so the Board of Education and the public is clear, preschool universal calculations are done by the Department of Education, not the Hoboken Board of Education. So what happens is the Department of Education will take the first grade enrollment and they will multiply the first grade enrollment district-wide by 2. And that gives you what's considered your projected universe. It is at that point that the Department of Education informs school districts of what their projected universe is. So our projected universe is right around 521 students. So as a result of the 521 students, that is what technically we should be funded for. But the Department of Education over the last few years, because of our tremendous growth in our 3- and 4-year-old population, has actually been extremely cooperative with the Hoboken School District, and they have been funding us well above the projected universe. So last year, the Department of Education funded the Hoboken School District for 825 children. And for the 2016-2017 school year, the Department of Education has funded the Hoboken School District for 840 children. So with that being said, even though our projected universe is 521 students, because the Department of Ed funds us for 840, that becomes our new projected universe. But with that being said, 840 students, the code, New Jersey code, actually indicates that school districts are required to seat 90% of the projected universe. So obviously that takes our 840 number and it knocks it down to a 90% number. However, we do continue to seat 840 students. We do not follow the guideline of 90%. However, the problem that the Hoboken School District has, which is what I would consider a good problem, is that many families want their children to attend our preschool 3 and our preschool 4 program. And because the population growth at that age bracket is growing so rapidly, we are now up to and exceeding 970 students enrolled in the or wanting to enroll in the preschool program. So inherently, you can see that there's obviously more enrollment than there is seats available, and so there is a waiting list for the preschool program as a result. 970 is where we are right now, but we have not yet gotten through July and we haven't yet gotten through August, so that number, while that will continue to rise, I can tell you that families have been extremely cooperative and they have been letting us know as soon as possible when they are moving out of the district so that we can give a spot to another child. So with that being said, our wait list number was down right around the 88 student mark. I would say that that number will continue to drop, but yet simultaneously the number will maybe then increase. Each and every day it kind of goes back and forth. But I just wanted to make sure everyone understands that we are watching it, and one of the challenges that we have in our schools is that preschool children cannot be housed or educated in a floor above the first, and so as a result of that, it provides or actually carries with it a lot of limitations in terms of facilities and where we can actually house our preschool children in our preschool program. So even though we are trying to be creative in terms of consolidating our providers and also trying to educate the children in more consolidated buildings, we are back now at a point where we are contemplating and making some decisions about other sites as the enrollment continues to grow. So we're keeping our eye on that. I just want to make sure everyone understands that. As you know, our kindergarten numbers have also grown, which required us to exceed the state limitations, or I should say the state guidelines for class size. So we had to add an additional kindergarten class about a month ago or 2 months ago. And in addition to that, our first grade enrollment in the last month and a half has grown so dramatically with new families enrolling into the district that we had to also open 2 additional first grade classes as well. So with that being said, we are watching our facilities and we're watching where we're putting our classes as well. A second area that I want to report out to the board is in the realm of curriculum and professional development. This summer, we are working diligently on our new science curriculum. We're kind of weaving both the final curriculum development phases along with professional development as well. We are doing the same with social studies and English language arts at the upper elementary 6th grade level through the middle school and the high school levels as well. We are also working to finalize our criteria for gifted and talented. We are in no way, shape, or form eliminating our gifted and talented program. In fact, we're expanding it. We are operating our gifted and talented program now 4 days a week plus 1 day a week of a school-wide enrichment program and embedding the Johns Hopkins program into the school day wrapped around an overall school-wide gifted and talented program. We are also right now engaging our staff in a number of advanced placement workshops, so I'm sure that our curriculum chair will talk about that, so I won't go into too much detail. We're also working to finalize our Project Lead the Way training, which is our brand new STEM program that's being introduced at the K-5 level, 6 to 8 level, and 9 to 12 level. Our teachers are going through extensive Project Lead the Way training, and we've just put out notification that we will be operating an orientation for the students that have been accepted into the high school Project Lead the Way program for biomedical sciences, engineering, and computer science on August 3rd. And finally, there are 2 pockets of pride that I would like to share with all of you. There is a group of very spirited and excited community members that are interested in the potential of getting a booster club off the ground for our high school program. So I think you'll hear probably more about that over the next couple weeks into the next month. And then the last thing is I do tend to, at public board meetings, congratulate the teachers and thank the teachers for their hard work. But at this last meeting of the school year, as we closed out the year, I would publicly like to thank our clerks. Our clerical staff has worked extremely hard closing out the end of the school year, and sometimes they get overlooked in the thank you component of things. So I personally will go around to each of the schools and thank them, but publicly at the board meeting, I wanted to do that as well.
Mr. Moffett, do you have...
Yes, I have 2 items.
Yeah.
First, I'd like to ask the board to amend Resolution 10.21 in regard to student insurance, student accident insurance specifically. We did discuss this in Finance Committee. We had a couple of late proposals that we needed to spend a little bit more time on because they were a little bit lower than we could anticipate. So we wanted to take our time, make sure the broker of record was happy with the basis of that proposal. And I am happy to report that if you accept that tonight, the student accident premium will be reduced about $29,000. It's with a carrier that, like I said, put in a late proposal. Our broker of record went back, checked the claims, made sure the historical side of it, because sometimes you have the lowest number and it's not always an accurate number. You're giving up too much in the package. But the only thing that really changes really has to do with a voluntary portion of that coverage, which will change from $92. Again, this is coverage that a parent can buy on top of what they already have and outside of our normal coverage. And again, it is voluntary, and that would have increases from $92 per year to $98 per year. But with that, not only does the broker of record recommend acceptance, but I as well, due to the fact that we are saving a significant amount of money on that policy. So if agreed, I'll amend it on the consent agenda.
Okay, thank you.
The second, I do have another item. As we're required, Public Law 2015, Chapter 47, I, as Board Secretary, Business Administrator, are required to present to you a report on contracts within the district. So this will be the second year that I provided a report that looks like this. We changed it a little bit this year to group them better for you when you review them as a board, and it basically is much of what you've seen over the various board meetings over time. We have a couple contract awards per meeting, and they're all consolidated, and I'm required to report out on the total number of those contracts for the fiscal year, which is 2015-2016. Again, like I did last year, any questions in regard to this information, feel free to give me a call. I could definitely go over it, and if you have any type of detail that you need, I can definitely get it to you. Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Moffitt. We'll do committee reports. Dr. Gold, do you have curriculum?
Okay, just a few things as mentioned. A number of our teachers and staff will be undergoing development workshops. Our Hoboken Literary and Art magazine received a 2016 Design Award of Excellence for the Create magazine. In Dramatics magazine, there will be a feature story about Hoboken's entry in the National Thespian Festival in, I think it was Nebraska. We're going to be making modifications to Hoboken High to further differentiate and separate the 7th and 8th graders from the high school students. Also, RFPs have been sent out to support the learning, to support the Passport to Learning programs. They're going to cover math, debating, chess, Mandarin, guitar, theater, visual arts, engineering, Spanish, dance. Actually, a lot of thought went into it. If you actually go to the BOE website, click under RFPs and look under the RFPs. The RFPs specify what should be covered by a vendor for these different fields, so you'll be able to look at the curriculum that the different vendors are bidding on. That's it.
Thank you, Dr. Gold. Mr. Biancamano, Facilities Committee.
Yes, thank you. The Facilities Committee met on Wednesday, June 22nd from 7:10 p.m. to 8:30 p.m. in Mr. Calighi's office. In attendance were Board President Tom Klepfeld, Sharon Angley, Jen Evans, myself, Mr. Calighi, and Dr. Johnson. Some of the items discussed. Summer projects update. There are no changes. Everything is moving forward per last meeting's reports. Financing for capital projects. This is going to be touched upon in the Finance Committee report, and it was also touched upon by Mr. Moffitt. But we are going forward with two separate lease purchases, one for equipment and the other for facility usage. The two lease purchases will equal up to $1.8 million with a roughly 2.5% interest rate. The board at this time has no debt, and this will not cause any debt going forward. Like I said, Mr. Moffitt touched up on this in his report. As for what the lease purchases are going to cover besides the field replacement that we spoke about and the renovations to the Wallace Gym, it will cover robotics labs, science labs, the HVAC systems will be repaired at Connors and Hoboken Junior Senior High School, the interior stairwell at Wallace will be repaired, and the floors at Brant will be repaired, as well as the toilets being replaced at Brant. So, just to go upon what we discussed earlier, because I'm always a little nervous about adding any type of debt to the district, but if we did not go down this path, the only thing we probably could have afforded this year was the field replacement. So I think that we're adding educational opportunities. I think it's well worth it. I think with interest rates so low, we should move forward with this, and I want to thank everyone on the board for their assistance with that. The next items we discussed were the light path redundancy. This will also be mentioned in the Finance Committee report. But right now, all of our fiber is run through Hoboken High School. The tech department will be working on adding a mirror image of the fiber to Denver School. This allows us some security in case there were power outages at the high school, as the whole district would go down if that were to happen. So this gives us more security going forward. 80% of the cost will be paid by E-rates, with the other 20% the district covering. It gives us an easier way of going forward while we're building on infrastructure. We will also be upgrading our current district phones, replacing them with modern devices. The cost of the yearly contract will remain the same, but there will be an installation fee. 50% of this will be paid by E-rate as well. And the Facilities Department is also bundling our technology purchases, which is going to save us money in the future. We're looking to cut costs anywhere we can, and these are three perfect examples. Improvements to the junior senior high school wing. And I thought Dr. Johnson was going to mention this, but I'm just going to say that there will be improvements to that section of the building, such as adding classrooms and a new science lab. There will also be a new entrance way for our middle school students on 9th and Grand. We will also be improving the doors in that section of the school. This will be funded mostly through the safety grant. We are not looking to segregate, but we do want more control over our middle school. And then just a reminder, the city is hopefully not going to be using, or they will be using, depending on the rain on Thursday, the Hoboken High School auditorium for the symphony orchestra. And finally, the Port Authority will be using this auditorium 2 days in the month of July for open public meetings to discuss the path closure on weekends. That's all for this month. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Biancamano. Finance Committee, I believe, Ms. Angley, Ms. Stromwell, you're giving her a report?
Yep. Ms. Angley is not available, so I'm reading the report for her. The Finance Committee met Wednesday, June 22nd from 2 to 4 p.m. In attendance were Dr. Johnson, Mr. Moffett, Mr. Klupfel, Mr. Gold, Ms. Angley as chair, and myself. The committee reviewed all agenda items and recommends all for board approval. There are a few facility technology-related contracts on the agenda tonight that were discussed in both Finance and Facilities Committees. Cost, background, and the drivers behind entering into those contracts at this time were shared with the board prior to this meeting. These include contracts with LightPath for an additional circuit to be installed at Demarest, which Mr. Biancamano touched upon. This will provide redundancy and additional security for the district. Contracts also include a new telephone system through Mitel. The current system is antiquated and the district is in need of a new system, which would be cloud-based. It will provide additional security and more features. The cost will be consistent with the prior contract, however, the district will be getting more for its money. Agenda items 10.13 and 10.14 that we've discussed sort of heavily at this point now relate to the lease purchase agreements for facility and equipment renovations. The district has identified facility projects that are priorities for our schools and our students. A lot of exciting changes will be happening this summer. Included in this agenda are 2 lease purchase agreements for the amounts of $450,000 and $1.45 million. Interest rates are extremely low, between 1.5 and 3.5, as Mr. Moffett projected, so it makes sense to take advantage of this opportunity. Lease purchase agreements will give the district the flexibility to complete more projects now deemed to be priorities at a very low cost to borrow. Both lease purchase agreements will be over 5 years, and we have a special counsel, McMahon, Scotland, and Bauman, to assist us with both those lease purchases, not to exceed $5,500. As far as the food service update, normal and evening meal profits for May were $886, and for May year-to-date is $45,000. Other items the committee discussed and will review the adopted budget book that the business office puts together. This book will be compiled for the 2016-17 budget, and it will be discussed if this is something that will be done going forward. And that's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Evans will be the Governance Committee.
Okay, so the the Governance and Personnel Committee met on June 22nd from 5:30 to 7:15. In attendance were Dr. Johnson, Ms. Sobolov, Mr. Klupfel, and myself. We reviewed all consent agenda items for the agenda tonight. We recommend all for approval. I'll go over a few that generated some discussion or comments. You'll notice item 9.03 that we have several retirements on the agenda. These are 3 district employees, very long-time district employees, all of whom are finishing up at Wallace School. This is Virginia Wingert, Hector Morales, and Kim Dunn, all very, very long-term district teachers, and we'd like to thank them very much and wish them all the best as they move forward. I did want to point out Ms. Dunn has been here for 42 years, and I don't have the exact numbers for Ms. Wingard or Mr. Morales, but I think they are pretty close, if not ahead. So we just wanted to wish them all the best. Looking on to the upcoming school year, you'll see that that's going on. Items 9.04 through 9.07, we have appointments for the upcoming school year. We're also thinking about the summer, items 9.12 and 9.20, the Jubilee Center and District are coordinating a summer program, and this will provide academic support for students in kindergarten through 5th grades in the morning, and this is provided by the district, and then in the afternoon, there's enrichment and more fun activities provided by the Jubilee Center, and our portion is funded by Title I. So the teachers that are, you'll see on the agenda, will be teaching 4 periods in the morning and then rotating through about 45 kids that the district has identified as needing assistance in small groups of math and English language arts. We also talked about item 9.26. You'll see there's a lot of workshops and training, again, getting ready for the upcoming school year, both advanced placement training and also for Project Lead the Way. These are also all grant funded through our school-based budgets. I did want to point out one of these trainings just because it might generate some thoughts by people, and I asked about it. There's a training for yoga, and I just asked about it because I thought it was interesting, and Dr. Johnson pointed out that, you know, part of success in life and in school is being able to regulate your actions and your emotions, and this is something that is being done in school districts across the country with a lot of success, and so that is what we're going to do too. Yep.
It's specifically designed for special education students.
Okay. Okay, and it's also designed for our special education students that have some behavioral issues.
Yes.
So that's another point, and it's funded through a grant. So, and that's all that I have for this evening.
Thank you. Mr. Moffett, do we have, comments or questions on committee reports?
Quick question about the waiting list on pre-K programs. There is a differentiation between pre-K3 and pre-K4, I believe, and I think parents might want to be aware that they might have a better chance if they're trying to get into one grade versus another. Is that fair to say, or?
I want to make sure I answer that question the best way that I can. I do believe that each year the amount of seats for children is contingent upon the first thing that the school district actually does is it takes all children who are identified through the early intervention process and seats those children first. So each year the pre-K3 numbers could look a little bit different, but they do tend to obviously follow course for pre-K4. It is much easier to get yourself into our preschool program with a pre-K3 registration than it is with a pre-K4.
And I would like parents to be aware that, there is a strategic decision about when to try to place your child into the pre-K program. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Biancamano.
Mr. Moffett, regarding the bundling or the summary of contracts that you handed to the board tonight, these have all been approved by the board, correct? Or going to be approved?
Yes, they've all been approved, I think, except for one that's on for tonight.
That's on for tonight. Perfect. I just wanted to clarify that. And in terms of the lease purchase, just so the public understands, again, this year in our capital reserve funds, we had about $1.1 million, correct?
In our maintenance reserve, we have $1 million.
Right, $1.1 million. So again, as I mentioned in my report, the field is going to cost $815,000 alone, which means that we wouldn't have enough funding to, like I said, fund everything else. And going forward, just so the public's aware, you know, because people are concerned about their taxes as well, they should be, and this was my concern when we spoke last week as well. The interest rate, you're thinking between 2.5% for a $1.8 million lease purchase combined, which means the interest rate would be between about $110,000 and $120,000 at the end of the lease purchase. And in order to pay for the lease purchases, obviously, the money will not be coming out of that capital reserve fund. Instead, will be coming out of the regular budget, correct?
That is for the equipment portion, right. That would be the $1,450,000.
For the equipment purchase.
That would not be coming out of capital reserve, right.
Out of the capital reserve. So, in essence, going forward, we would still have our capital reserve funds just in case a rainy day, a Sandy, or anything that comes up. And I think it's super, super important that we do go forward this way, because as some of the teachers here will tell you, our buildings are getting older. If we were just going to replace the field this year and not have anything educational involved in it, I think that it would have been a loss for the district. So going forward this way is very, very important. I just wanted to clarify that. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else? Then, Mr. Moffett, do we have public comments on agenda items?
We have two listed. First speaker is Pat Waiters.
Pat Waiters, I have a few items on the agenda. First, with the superintendent's report. Thank you so much, Dr. Johnson. I'm so glad that you're aware of a lot of situations that's going on and, put insight on them when people watch this, members of the public. I was on the early childhood for like 3 years. I sat on the board with Ms. Evans. And that do seem to be a problem, because I'm still getting approached and people thinking that the procedure is unfair or whatever. You broke it down to the lowest terms. That was excellent what you did tonight in full detail, because it's hard to place the blame, but now you hear, you're new in the district, and you see for yourself. The last superintendent even came down to the Jubilee Center and to try to register the Housing Authority kids, because our understanding to Abbott, I explained to the best of my ability that they was considered first priority to those seats. And we had a problem with that, because it seemed like all the Housing Authority 3 and 4-year-old kids was at home. Okay, after we lost the Daycare 100, because that's where most of our children attend, they was getting a state grant to go to Daycare 100 from for daycare services. So with them taking the state grant, that's like double jeopardy when their kids should have already been in the program. Things like that have to be watched, because Urban League is the same thing as the state, the same money, the same funding. But most of the 3 and 4-year-old kids from the Housing Authority and Applied Housing or wherever that suffer with financial restraints did not have their kids in those programs. And it was very disturbing to me. I will always mention it, and seem like they would go to Only Kindness. They didn't put them in no other preschool, and it was so disturbing to me. I'm so glad tonight you explained to them what a waiting list means. I was one of the ones that called Trenton and complained when the mothers come up to me and say, Patricia, they told me my daughter or son is on a waiting list. And I'm like, are you serious? And I will go in person myself and see all the nannies dropping off their kids, okay, at the daycare center while our kids was at home. And that's very disturbing. I called the state myself. It's not fair. So I'm glad you explained the process and explained the reason for a waiting list. We overwhelmed, and it's no other way, like I said, but to continue to watch, please, Dr. Johnson, and make sure the process is done fair and open. I'm very glad you mentioned that. And that's why I put on here state funding and the Abbott program. Maybe you can get some kind of literature out for the other mothers down in the Housing Authority and explain to them in detail, because they will be coming to you asking why their kids not there. But tonight you explained that well. I want to thank you for that. With the, so you can explain to them their qualifications and why they're being placed on a waiting list. And on the textbook training for these teachers, this is some type of training, because I had a problem. Every year I go in advance to the school and work with my wonderful principal here, Ms. Pick, to get textbooks for Ralph. I sign off on them and I keep them myself because I find it easier. But last year they did everything through the computer and printouts, and it was like real inconvenient for Ralph, which is a struggling student. I like the textbook thing. It don't explain in detail what this is about, but I don't want to waste my 5 minutes, but I'm just addressing this issue with the textbooks. Textbooks coming back, going out, whatever. I just want to know a little more about the textbooks. Now, the Summer Jubilee program, what a coincidence. A lot of mothers ask me that too. Now, I didn't know that, in Richmond, you said only up to the 5th grade. Did I get that right? Only up to the 5th grade?
Yeah.
Okay, well then I'll keep my comment to myself. I'm wrong on that one, because my son is attending the 8th grade. And he's going to school on 49th Street up in Union City to attend summer school. And there's a lot of other students that struggle that can't afford the $300. And I think this will at least help them, prepare them, so when they go on to their next class, or if they have to repeat the same class, this will help them a lot, get ready for next year. So I thought it was like a summer type of summer school for them, but it's not. Thank you for explaining that to me. And that'll be all on my agenda. Wait, let me make sure. Oh, I'll see you after the meeting, Mr. Peter. You're the facility director, right?
Facility chair, not the director.
Who's the director?
Mr. Tim Callaghy.
Who?
Mr. Callaghy?
Okay, I'll see him too. And speaking of Mr. Callaghy, his salary on here, it says, plus you have another, what's the difference between he's a, like personnel director, but I see you hiring somebody as a, a facilities director versus a human resource director. What's the difference? I remember Ms. Bucknight was here and she was terminated and was removed, and now I see on here tonight a facility and also a human resources. Is that the same title?
They're actually two, oh, is it okay?
I'm finished, that's my last one, Mr. President.
No.
Oh, okay.
So there's actually, there are two completely different positions. The facilities director is a position that districts are required to have. Mr. Callaghy has been in the district, I believe, for over 10 years, I'm not sure.
About 15 years.
About 15.
Yes.
And the human resources manager is a position that we have not had in the district. It's a position that is new, but it's not an added position to the district. It's actually a replacement of a position that I have not continued.
Right,
So-
it wasn't you, but the last director, we had Mr. Ruzak and the other one, we had Tarika Bucknight, am I right, Peter? Tarika Bucknight was the, exactly,
She was actually the director of curriculum, I believe.
yeah. I thought it was curriculum and human resources.
I'm not sure, it's possible, I don't know what the actual title was,
That's what her
but
title, I have the paperwork on the agenda, they had it as director of human, that's why I thought that this young lady was replacing her, because that
No.
was her title.
that position was eliminated years ago.
Okay, thank you,
you.
everybody.
There's another speaker?
Yes, Mr. Enrico?
Yes, good afternoon. Just to mention, I know Jen, you did a great job mentioning our employees, but those three people that retired have been in excess of 40 years each. Virginia Wingert was a great science teacher over in Wallace. A lot of the children got their love of science through her. Mr. Morales, a Hoboken High graduate, 3-star athlete. Kids loved him. And Ms. Dunn, who I worked very closely with over the last so many years. I know she did a great job and the kids loved it. These are tough decisions for people to make, believe me. It's a tough decision, and I know they struggled with it this past year. So I thank you for mentioning them, and I'm sure they'll be missed.
Any additional responses or comments on public comments? No. Yes, Mr. Madigan.
Sorry, I didn't see the paper because you had three up there. Can you just give me a minute? Thank you, Brian Murray. I just wanted to address one issue here, and I'll take care of the rest in the public portion. But most of the time I come up here and I talk about how I think that some people are grossly overpaid in a district where we're trying to cut costs and find ways to manage to get to a budget number. But looking through specifically item 911, look at the security guards and these custodians, and especially these part-time custodians. I mean, they're not making a living wage. I don't want to sound like Bernie Sanders, but at $8.38 an hour, when you have people making 5 times that all over this board, and you have a facilities director making 8 times that pay, I think we just got to kind of look at those numbers and say, can we do something for these guys so that it's a job people might want and that they could take some pride in? And it's like, I mean, really, $8.38 an hour? I mean, I'm not sure if there aren't other jobs that they could. I mean, how low can we go with this? I hate to spend more money, but I just think that as a community, we need to kind of look at this and say, is this the right thing to do? Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Murray. Yeah. Mr. Madigan, did you have a comment?
I just wanted to comment on the retiring teachers, since I grew up in Hoboken. Let me just get to them right now. Miss Dunn, my children had when they were at Wallace. I mean, she worked probably all over the school with her classroom, and probably her last 10 years or 15 years were in the old boardroom. Even when the board meetings were there, she would have to move things, I guess, the next day and set up for her classroom. So, and parents, you don't deal with them a lot till like you see them in the winter concert or the spring concert, and she did a marvelous job. Miss Wingate was good with them with science. But I'll speak about Hector Morales. When I was in high school, I think he coached everything except for my sport, basketball. I think he did track, he did football, he was baseball, he was all over, Mr. Morales. I think he'd stay there the whole year round, so I don't know when he slept or whatever, because they're dealing with the kids, and he was just kind-hearted anytime with any of the children. And once he had your ear, he'd never leave you, Hector. So, but he had always great stories, even that he remembered them different from us students did. But I just want to wish them all luck. They were great teachers for the district and our kids, and even for when we were in school. So thank you very much to them teachers.
Thank you, John. If there's no other comments, I would ask for a motion on the consent agenda.
Motion?
You got that, Mr. Moffett?
Right, I have a consent agenda. 10.21 is amended to reflect the student insurance amount. But yes, I have it seconded.
Okay. Then you call the roll, please.
No, I have questions.
Oh, that's for,
I know you have to normally. So just a couple of items on the agenda. Is that the
Please,
time now?
please, I'm sorry.
Sure. Beginning with 9.12, Dr. Johnson, and this never came up in the Facilities Committee meeting last week, regarding the changing of titles from custodian engineer to maintenance engineer. What will the implication be on salaries? Do their salaries actually go up, or it's just a title change?
Custodial engineer to maintenance engineer, there is a differential in salary.
There is a differential in salary.
There is, yeah. Contractually, the custodial staff is paid at one rate, and the maintenance staff is paid at another.
I see, okay, so the four on the agenda tonight are being changed from custodian to maintenance with a bump in salary then?
Just the first two.
I'm sorry, Mr. Biancamano, I can't hear you.
So the four custodians on the agenda tonight are being changed from custodian engineer to maintenance engineer, because a maintenance person does a lot more. I read Ms. Evans' report. I did read your report.
Yes.
But there was nothing on the report regarding salary, so they are going to be paid more because their
They'll
title
be
is
paid
changing.
at their rate of their contract, yes.
And that's all budgeted, correct?
Correct.
Okay.
Yes.
The next question, 9.14, the approval of summer credit retrieval program manager. I was just curious on what this role actually entails.
Okay, so some school districts choose to run a traditional summer school program where the kids actually will come and the school district will hire teachers and you will actually run classes. We choose to do it in a little bit of a more modern way, as we're seeing more and more school districts do, because it's much more cost effective. So any students that need to retrieve credit by not passing a class can do it through a online certificated program where there are certified teachers on the back end of the program, and there's one person that facilitates or kind of coaches all of the kids, but their teachers are actually coming through the program that we participate in, which is A+ Recovery. And A+ Recovery actually provides certified teachers in each state where the kids participate.
And these are not, this program is not for graduating seniors, correct?
No.
It's for juniors and sophomores and freshmen who
Correct.
did not pass, and this one person will facilitate an online
yes.
program, and
Yes.
she's going to come in for 2
That's
weeks
correct.
and give it. Okay. I'm going to bundle up the next two items, 9.21 and 9.22, regarding the middle school project coordinator and the approval of summer hours for middle school. I guess starting with 9.21, this will be done during the school year, correct? Or is this over the summer?
So the stipend itself is for the school year.
That's for the school year?
Yes.
And that won't take away from the responsibilities in the classroom?
No.
This is just an extra responsibility that we've done
Correct.
after school?
Yes.
Okay, and per contract, you have to, it has to be
That's
compensated?
correct.
Right, okay. And then 9.22, the summer hours for the
Mm-hmm.
following staff. Will you be monitoring when they're going to come in and
Yes.
so on and so forth? And this is for a new middle school program, not a program, but an initiative that you have, correct?
Yes.
Okay.
So we are monitoring it, and in fact, both employees have a schedule, so I know what days that they will be in, they sign out, and they have specific tasks that they're working on for each of those days. They're curriculum-oriented tasks, and they're also tasks related to things such as advisory curriculum for the new middle school program. Some of it has to do with Project Lead the Way, some of it has to do with Gifted and Talented, but we have been, my office has been operating without the assistant superintendent for a while, so I do need a little bit of assistance in this area. And also, we have made a decision to restructure a little bit in the district, so we did not renew. One of our supervisors is leaving, but we did not keep positions of 2 other supervisors in the district, so there is some cost savings there.
So,
And
in essence,
this is making up for it.
Right, it's more
That's
cost-friendly
correct.
because you're, okay, perfect. And I have one more question on the finance portion. Mr. Moffett, on the contracts, in terms of the accounts payable individual that we're bringing in, I believe from Passaic County Educational Services, so the district is going to be paying close to $20,000 for an accounts payable person, or up to $20,000 for an accounts payable person to come into the district. And you know what my question is going to be? Do we have anybody in-house that can do this?
No, the answer is we're going to replace this individual. We're going to be going out and advertising for this slot, posting for it, and filling it. This has just been a stopgap measure through the process for accounts payable. So the intent has always been to fill that position.
So once we fill that position, we
This
won't go
will go
forward
away.
with this contract?
This goes away, right.
But just in case we don't fill it, this is why this contract
Right.
is here? Okay.
Right.
Nothing further. Thanks.
Thanks. Anybody else?
Just a comment on 9.23. Let me see. Vacation. 9.23. I just noticed we're paying the vacation days, and the person no longer, well, they still work here at this point. But I think in the future we should look into it. If the person's leaving, maybe they should take the vacation days before, so we're not still paying them after, like we'll pay them after July. And I know they're entitled to the vacation, but now we're paying them 14 days extra after they worked. Like they're no longer going to be working, and we're going to hand them a check for 14 vacation days when they could have had that during the year. So that their salary's still carrying over. So something we could look into. If someone's leaving the district and they have and they know before they're leaving, if we could try to have them take the vacation.
Yeah, sometimes when people do leave the district and we don't renew a position, in this case, I needed the person to work
Okay.
up to the last.
Then that's no problem.
Yeah, just for service purposes,
Yeah.
that was.
No problem.
All right, thank you. If there's no other comments or questions, then we can call the vote.
Mr. Biancamano?
No on the minutes, 6.01, yes on everything else.
Ms. Evans?
Yes.
Dr. Gold?
Yes.
Mr. Madigan?
Okay, have your pen ready? 10.7 no. 10.08 abstain. 10.10 abstain.
10.10 that was?
Yes.
So I got 10.07, 10.08, and 10.10.
Yes.
That's recorded as a no.
And
a
abstain,
yes on-
abstain. The last two.
The last two is an abstention.
10.08 and 10.10.
Okay, and then a yes on all others?
Yes.
Ms. Montgomery?
Yes.
Ms. Sobola?
Yes.
Ms. Stromwall?
Yes.
And Mr. Klupfeld?
Yes. Guess that passes. It would be time for public comments.
I have two Speakers signed up. The first one is Patricia Waiters.
Good evening. My final comments tonight is to congratulate all the graduates. My little buddy sitting up there on the stage. I'm so proud of all of you guys. And come back to and help the younger kids whenever you get a free chance. I'm asking one thing from this board. We all know an election is slowly approaching. In August, we pick up petitions or whatever. But I didn't want to go here tonight, but I have to, because when people watch the Board of Ed meeting and say to me, stop with the attacks for Peter and you, John, and I love you, John, to death. I started laughing, and I said it shouldn't be sides. Let's stop saying they side versus our side. We got a lot to do in this school district. And at least show Dr. Johnson that we appreciate her and show her some gratitude. If not for nobody else, we know we live in a very political town, and I know y'all hate when I stand up here and say it. Thank God that's why I save it for the public portion, because the public is interested in hearing this. Because they want to know when we're going to change that concept. And keep all the politicians out our kids' education, please. But to see the TV and watch the board meeting and see Mr. Gold continue to attack the other side, what they call it, or whatever you want to say, and they sitting there waiting for Mr. Clumford to be unprofessional, and I love him dearly too, because he be nothing but professional, and you have been since you became the president. You need to teach the city council some of your tactics. And I was so shocked that other day when the argument escalated. He was very fair. He addressed you, Peter, just like he addressed him. This is not the place for it. Kids is watching this, and kids don't want to see their board members act like kids. So that last meeting, I want to thank you for your professionalism, Mr. Clumford, and I'm asking this board in its entirety, please work with Dr. Johnson. We're going to need your help. This is for the board members, not the new ones that's running, the board members that's going to be remaining the next 3 years. Please work with Dr. Johnson. There's a lot of things that mothers is really upset about with that high school, the junior senior high school. I've been working with them. They've been very patient, and I told them, give the board a chance. But Dr. Johnson has been working really hard. I got to give her credit for that. I got these parents ready with their belts tightened for September, and I told them, I'm serious. I want to see more of them come out and complain than come to me and complain. I want to see them come out and really address this board. I want to see these seats full and start holding these board members accountable that run for the Board of Education in our municipality and take a known disregard to all of these issues. It is a lot of issues, but I'm not blaming this board because they're not here. You see that, right? But I'm telling them, come September, I'm ready, but I'm only working with them. I want these issues to really be addressed from our kids in that high school at a very immature age. It impacted me too, because my son Ralph was off the hook, but I kept him in line, and I expect that from all the mothers. Stop blaming the teachers, stop blaming the superintendent, stop blaming the board, and let's hold our kids accountable. If we hold our kids accountable, you guys got to work with us, because our kids is the ones in that school, okay? So please, I'm begging you, this coming year, and this is for everybody else that's watching, that's going to run and pick up petitions in 2 weeks, please stop running for this board if you're not going to do what's right for the children. It's about the children at the end of the day. Please. Thank you again. Thank you for settling the teachers' contracts and all the other stuff. Kudos to everybody. Thank you, Dr. Johnson, again, and I'm always here to work with you. Thank you. Have a good night.
Thank you.
Next speaker is Mr. Brian Murray.
Brian Murray, 1100 Maxwell Lane. Regarding the pre-K, just looking at some of those numbers, that Dr. Johnson threw out, about 900 kids in the pre-K, and when you add the kindergartners in there and even the first graders, your number is probably double that, maybe about 1,800 kids or so, even if it's a little off. To put that in perspective, it's more than 4 times the size of the high school, of the Hoboken residents in the high school, not when you factor in the kids that come from out of town. And I think that the families that have pre-K children and kindergarten and first graders, they need more attention. They need more somebody to be making sure that that their kids get placed, whether they come from one side of town or the other side of town. And that having been a parent that has gone through the process and having, knowing lots of other families that have been put on wait lists and the thing, it's incredible stress on those families. And whether they get in or they don't get in, it's not like something you can just decide September 5th that, hey, I can now, I'm going to wait until then. And I just think that given the size and the scope of the amount of students in that group, that the Board of Education could really focus on that and not just say, oh, we have to take them and it's a kind of a pain and we're going to focus all of our resources and attention on the high school and the junior high school and the older kids, but that this makes up most of your students, and yet those families get very little of this attention when we have wait lists and when we're explaining. I know it's hard, but I think that there's more attention that could be spent on it to fix the problem. It's the same problem every year. Dr. Johnson, you haven't been here this long, but every year it's the same problem. There's a wait list, there's where are we going to put the kids. It doesn't have to be this way. Secondly, this whole lease purchase, I am extremely disappointed at the board members who voted against the budget not more than 2 months ago. The facility, the field, the $900,000 for the field has been talked about for a year. Mr. Biancamano's had that number for a very long time, that we're going to need to replace the field. It's $900,000. Yet somehow that number doesn't get into the regular budget, and somehow it's this, we're going to borrow money, we're going to borrow against the future. Because even if the interest rates are low, you still have to pay back the principal. And you have to pay it back over the next 5 years. So that $1.5 million or whatever it is, even if the interest rate is zero, it's still $300,000 that comes off of next year's budget and the year after that and the year after that. And I get it, if you guys are looking for more ways to get money without having to go to the taxpayers for it, and you voted for the budget, fine, it's the way you can do it. But if you voted against the budget, you should have been banging your hammer then and saying, what about the field? How are we going to pay for the field? How are we going to pay for the field in the budget? Not, oh, now we're just going to really increase it behind your back and vote for that. I find that, to be incomprehensible. It doesn't equate. So let's just call it what it is. It's a way to increase the budget without having to ask the taxpayers for it. And then lastly, my daughter is moving out of Wallace and out of the school system this year, and our time here has been really great, and I wanted to take a moment to thank a few people. Specifically, Ms. Lemberg has been very, very helpful, and I know that sometimes she gets some recognition here, and I just wanted to give her some more. Both of my children have mentioned Mr. Fagan as one of their top teachers, so if he's not on your radar, he should be on your radar, because my kids loved him. They were two very different students, and they both excelled under his tutelage. So thanks to Mr. Fagan. And then lastly, we did transition in the middle of, or towards the end of a year, and then have now leaving. And I just want to thank Miss Jessica Vega, the clerk over at Wallace, that there were 3 principals in the 4 years my kids were there. And she was, she is the heart and soul of what makes that place run. If you don't know it, you should know it, because people like her, I'm sure there are others in the district, they're what keep this place together when a new family comes in and they don't have anybody to turn to and they have lots of questions, and she's there with a smile and she's there with an answer, or she'll get an answer for you. Our family, the Murray family, would like to just say a special thank you to her. Thanks.
Thank you, Mr. Murray. Any comments, board members?
Does it have to be on public comments or just a general comment?
I would say either is appropriate at this point.
If you just, is this on? Yeah, okay. So many things had happened previous to the last meeting, and we didn't kind of get to discuss them, so I just kind of wanted to just give a brief little shout out to Beauty and the Beast, which was amazing. I know that I love all the plays, but this one was huge, so I just kind of wanted to, we had gotten a little report that there were 120 kids on the stage and in the backstage. The backstage crew created 32 costumes, and they rented 100 costumes, which they pay for with a lot of the fundraisers the drama club has. There were 30 parent volunteers, and I also just wanted to say congrats to the drama club because they were in Nebraska because they had won first place in the New Jersey Thespian Festival, so they were there representing Hoboken High School, so congrats to them. And somebody had mentioned the senior award night, so I just wanted to say thanks to all the community members who had were so generous in donating the scholarships and the awards to the seniors. And then graduation also happened, which was amazing. So I wanted to say congratulations to Alfredo Velosi, who will be off to Stevens, and Allie Feinstein, who's going to Rutgers, and Gina Rotundi, who also gave a speech. She's also going to Rutgers. And then just one more quick little mention about the prom. I wanted to thank the senior advisors, and they go to one location and then they go on a boat ride. So it takes kind of the whole night. It's sort of a really fun thing, but also sort of a safety factor, keeps them busy. And so I just wanted to mention two people. The prom queen was Taylor Barron, so congratulations to her. And the prom king was Eliza Brown. And I wanted to mention him in that he had a really spectacular series of events in the past few weeks. He was the prom king, the gold medal winner at the Special Olympics, and then at the senior awards dinner, he received the Community Service Award for his 3,000 volunteer hours at the shelter, and then he was honored as the ideal Red Wing for embodying and exemplifying Hoboken High in his academics, his athletics, and his spirit. So I really just wanted to mention that. Congratulations, Stan.
Hey, Tom, I would just like to mention something. In terms of, and Mr. Moffett, feel free to jump in to the lease purchases, and again, I can't stress this enough, how interest rates are low. Many of the projects that are falling under this lease purchase are going to have to be done in the future anyway. So we might as well bundle it up this year, give the teachers the resources they need, more importantly, give the superintendent what she needs, because she was very much so in this conversation about it, and take it while the interest rates are so low. And Mr. Moffett, we spoke about this at length last week when we said, you know, does this guarantee a tax increase next year? And you said absolutely not. So I just think that it's a golden opportunity that the board took tonight to enhance our facilities, and that's important, and not just the field, but educationally with robotics labs and science labs. So to say that, oh, the budget's going to go up now because we're doing a lease purchase, it had to be done in the future anyway. So, you know, let's do it now while interest rates are low, and we'll see what the budget brings in the years to come. Thank you.
Quick thing. I know it's
Excuse me.
Dr. Gold.
Actually, I asked the same question you asked, Mr. Murray, and it took hours of discussion. We are paying more for the money, but we don't have all the money we need in order to do these things. It's as simple as needing a car or a house and making a payment at a low interest rate and spending what we think we have to spend now. So your hypothesis, your supposition that this is costing us money, yes, it is. But in the scheme of things, the decision was we need to pay for these things now and not wait. So I think your questions are 100% right. It was a judgment call, and I was convinced after many hours that we needed to do more than just replace the field. So that's my answer to you.
Mr. Madigan.
Just about someone bringing up the comments about the early childhood enrollment. I heard Dr. Johnson speak about it, saying that she's even looking into other options of finding places where her restraints are that they can't go above the first floor. So when we come up and just say, at least this superintendent has taken the initiative about the early childhood where we haven't had that before. And she said it in her speech. She is looking, and it's moving higher and higher in enrollment, even if the district's taking more money than the state's paying. But she is looking for other options, for other spaces. I think that's where we were going on that. So, thank you.
I would like to reiterate that, but it's not a question of space, really. We will find the space. The issue is of state funding.
Yeah.
That the state is slow to recognize the population change that has been happening in Hoboken over the years. They have a formula for funding districts that are required to provide pre-K, and they say, this is what we allocate to you. We have gone back and said, look, you have to understand what is happening in this district, and they are slowly increasing that amount, but they're at a point where they will not, and that's what leads to the waiting list, is that we say that we have more students, and they say, no, you don't, in a sense.
It's kind of interesting also because I wanted to address Ms. Wader's comment only because I do think as people watch, they can become educated as well. One of the things that seems a little bit counterintuitive is that the preschool program was originally designed for families that are struggling in a socioeconomic capacity. But yet the program that we put forward, we are not at liberty as a school district to prioritize on the basis of socioeconomic status. In fact, we're not even allowed as a district to ask for that information in order to prioritize. So that makes it a little bit of a challenge for us. The second thing that I think is very important is that we are required as a school district to submit to the Department of Education every year, sometime around February, an early childhood plan. And in that plan, we submit what we project our real numbers to be. And it's at that time that we have the ability to kind of lobby for ourselves to ask for additional funding for added classrooms. So I can tell you over the last 3 years that the Department of Education has added classrooms, even though our universe number is only increasing, the projected universe number, as per the Department of Ed, is increasing slowly. What is happening is the Department of Ed is giving us some additional classes. So last year we asked for 6 additional classrooms and we were given 1. This past school year we asked for 6 additional classrooms and we were funded for 2 additional classrooms. So what's happening is what we asked for, we're getting portions of that because the Department of Education views Hoboken as an overfunded former Abbott preschool district. We're actually being funded at a rate of 161%, and we're receiving funds that other Abbott districts or former Abbott districts are not actually utilizing. So we don't find the information out as to how much funding we're getting. In fact, we just received the letter in May that told us exactly how many classrooms we were being funded for. So we do try our best to keep our eyes on the amount of students that we have, but we unfortunately are at the discretion of the Department of Ed to let us know what our funding is and at what time they let us know.
I would also like to add one other thing. We voted on the budget a couple of months ago, and there were a couple of no votes. And that's why we take votes, right? And that's why you can either vote yes, or you can vote no, or you can abstain. And the motion passed. And then what a board does is come together and say, okay, the decision was made, now we move forward. And I think that's what we are doing as a board since then, this year's budget, this year's, the lease purchase, everything else. Well, this is the new situation, now we move forward. So I appreciate the work that all the committees put into the discussion about this lease purchase agreement and on the fields and in the support of moving this district forward, because as you just pointed out, these are repairs that need to be made, and these are important program changes as we continue to improve this district. Let's do it now, not as we can slowly afford it over the next couple of years, because we're at a point where something feels really good here, and I think that's what the purpose of this purchase is about. Any other comments?
Motion to close.
Second.
Meeting, thank you.